That's all right. You're good to go. The rest of it looks fine though. You're okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So, well, welcome everybody. This is Andrew David, Blake Newbar's partner program and the Daily High Performance Call. I'm excited today because we've got a guy that I've been following for a number of years. In his bio, he talks about he's been called the modern day Wizard of Oz. He's a guy that gets things done when other people kind of laugh and scoff and go that it's impossible, it's never going to happen. So he's the guy that gets things done for people that want things done at a high level and demand not only the best, but kind of go after things that most of us wouldn't necessarily dream of. And these guys learn how to make it happen. So without any further ado, Mr. Steve Sims, author of BLUEFISHING and everything else. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. I've got a little bit of a...
You're on mute. You hit mute there somehow.
There you go. You got me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sorry about that. But yeah, I've got a bit of a hoarse throat, but I'll push on through. Makes me sound a bit husky for a few seconds.
There you go. Well, so let me ask you, this is something, I just gave a 10-second bio. Why don't you can you tell us a little bit about, you and how you got where you are and where you started, just a little bit of the story to begin with, without necessarily going.
Yeah, it's no different to anyone else that's here. I started off as an aggravated kid. And I'm, Joe, you mentioned Joe Polish, that dysfunctional weirdo. He openly says that it's aggravated oysters that make pearls. I grew up from East London as a bricklayer, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, coming home at 8 o'clock, wet, damp, beaten up, cut up from the building site, going, well, hang on, I know how to work hard. I know how to work long. How come I'm not working smart? And so I went out in the planet to try and find rich people and just go, hey, why are you rich and I'm not? And I wasn't very subtle at it, but I got some of the answers. And along the way, I thought for anyone to be in anyone's, gravity, you've got to bring something to the party. And I found out a lot of people couldn't get into things and I didn't give a damn about them. So I would find a way of getting them in. And before you knew it, I ended up becoming the world's first leading concierge firm. In fact, arrogantly, my company invented the personal concierge industry, but our poorest clients were multimillionaires. We had 93 clients at one stage, and about 60 of those were billionaires. And you don't need a lot of clients when they're billionaires. And that was it. But I never wanted to be a concierge. I know we're going to go into the stories and stuff like that. My entire business was a Trojan horse. I would get in under one context, but it was to engage you enough that I could ask you, why are you successful? And so many people are not. And I went on a 25-year education. And then, as you say, I wrote a book on it. That's a whole story in itself. Never expected to, but met someone in a bar and wrote a book and world took off. And now they know who I am.
Well, and I know, I don't know if we've got if you can see everybody on there, but I know a lot of the people that are joining us today they've got the book. I posted a picture with it today, but a lot of these guys have the book there themselves. So you've got a lot of readers on here. So the whole did you start with that idea? Like, I know, you've got kind of the stories you talk about in the book about getting into bouncing in clubs. And then as it grew, was it really all about how can I talk with more kind of the modern day Dale Carnegie type of, how can I talk with millionaires and ask them what they did? Was it really about that?
Well, I can see, I've moved it to gallery view, so I can see a lot of you good looking people, a couple of funky ones there, but most of you are good looking. But you're mostly over the age of 25.
That's a fair assessment with this crowd.
Right. Yes. Okay. So we all came from a period of life that we didn't have Instagram to tell us how inadequate our life was. I just had a gut feeling, I just had this vibe that, hang on, there's got to be something else, And so I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to change my room. Now, I'm a great believer that when you're in a great room, great things happen. I remember one day, and I'm a biker. I've been on bikes since birth. I don't have a car. I ride motorcycles. fact, I did a little posting the other week with me leaning up against a client's Rolls Royce, taking the Mickey.
Yeah.
Pay me $9.99 for a course. I'll teach you how to lean up against someone's car that you don't own. And I would always turn up on motorcycles. I went to this bar one night, and I'm in this bar. I've got enough money in my pocket for like 2.5 beers. And I look around my room, and they're all broke ass bikers. And I thought to myself, I am a combination of that room. I'm one of the cogs. You know, you are the room you're in. Now, I knew these things just from my gut before I got the chance to read all the Napoleon Hills and Tony Robbins and all those kind of people. But I had this gut reaction that I can't become something when I'm contained by the room that I'm in. So I literally changed my room. Now, today we could do that simply by joining a group like this, being part of a Facebook group, going to an event. But let's be blunt. How many of you remember back in the 80s and 90s and maybe even the 70s, when if you told someone you were an entrepreneur or a hustler, it was a bad thing, you know? You see, if someone walks into your business now and says, hey, I know you're looking for someone to head up your team. I know you're looking to get someone to develop this. You know, I'm the greatest hustler you've ever meet. Bang, hired. You start now. You want that person. Hustling is a skill set that you can't learn in Harvard. But back in the 80s and 90s, this meant you were selling stolen car audios from the back of your car. I remember being at school in the 80s. I don't know what I was doing. I was probably getting in trouble. I was quite a, you know, like all entrepreneurs, we have ADD. And we sit down, we're like, you're bored, you know? And I got in trouble somehow for doing something. And the headmaster gave me 3 lashes of the cane. You know, those were the days where we actually got a cane.
A little bit different than you get a participation trophy for
now you can't even point to them, you know? It's not me, it's you, it's not you, it's me, it's that bollocks now. But this was back in the days when you got a cane, and if you did something right, there was a did something wrong, there was a repercussion to that. So I'd obviously done something that they thought was wrong. He marches me into the headmaster's office. I put my hand out, I don't know, 14, 15 years old, and I get the cane across the front of my hand, okay? And it hurt. I wasn't going to cry, but I wanted to cry. You know, it hurt. And then he was getting ready for the second lash, and he said, Sims, you'll never amount to anything. You're just a hustler. I never felt the next 2 lashes, because in my head, I was like, where's that a bad thing? You know, I'm missing something here. It was like he was slashing my hands and calling me a genius at the same time. I was like, how is this a bad thing? And as I grew and started to talk to people, I realized that hustlers always look for the angle. They always look for the edge. They always look for the opportunity. The richest guy on a rainy day is the guy selling the umbrellas. Every single person we're looking at started off as aggravated people. You know, I name drop, here we go. I was chatting with Elon Musk, and he said he was aggravated that it took 5 days for you to send money in a US bank from one account to another account. 5 days. And he said he didn't understand why, because it wasn't even transferring money, it was transferring code.
Yeah.
And because of that aggravation, he built PayPal.
Right.
So aggravated people resolve the problems that they have. And as I was growing up, I needed to change the people who I was around. And I tried yacht sales. I was an insurance salesman. Can you imagine me knocking on your door at 8 o'clock at night going, you need life insurance? That got some funny looks. I was a book salesman. I was a cake salesman. You know, I tried so many things. I tried to sell planes and fancy cars, and I was kicked out of every single one of those jobs. And one day, a friend of mine was working in a bank, and this was my Gordon Gekko moment. This was the guy that I thought, damn, you've got everything. I'm on a building site.
Okay, it's got it, yeah.
Yeah, and this guy's got everything. And he said to me, he said, you know, we're actually recruiting on interns to go to a new division. So I went along to his bank to see if I could get a job as a stockbroker, and they needed a resume. My resume was greater than the work of Harry Potter. In fact, in my resume, I did actually mention I was related to the Queen of England. You know, it was incredible. That
a work of art.
It was I was very impressed with it. Now, here's the thing. it was so much at a stretch that anyone had started on the first page would have realized what a giggle this was. I had made it so that they would look at it and go, yeah, right. Because I think my date of birth was 1943 as well, you know? So I just made it so obviously wrong that they would look at it and go, let's give him a chance. He hasn't.
He's funny.
Yeah.
he's.
They didn't even look. Because I'd got in with this guy and they recruited 60 people for this new division. Right. What they hadn't told me, this new division was in Hong Kong.
Well, there you go.
I'm in London, you know? So I got the job and they sent me a ticket and they buggered me off to Hong Kong. We landed on this Saturday. I got drunk with them, qualified to do that. Went out on a Sunday night, got drunk again, still qualified. Did orientation on the Monday.
Right.
And Tuesday morning, I was called into the office and fired. So I had one day as a stockbroker, shortest career of a stockbroker anywhere.
There you go.
I just didn't know what to do. And I ended up working on the door of a nightclub. God made me big and ugly, so it seemed a perfect fit. And it was funny because I remember being there thinking, I've gone from a noble skill of being a bricklayer and a mason and tradesman. Hats off to you folks, you know. Tradesmen that's a skill. You know, you want something done right, you get a skilled tradesman to do it. And here I was where my job description was to slap that bloke. You know, I thought I had gone down. But again, there's something about us entrepreneurs that when the tough gets going, we get going, you know? And it was from there that I went, okay, classic lines of Sean Stevenson. How can I make this happen for me and not to me?
Get up off your butt, right?
Yep, change of perspective. So I started using my position as a doorman to see how the world interacted with each other, see how rich people interacted with people versus those pretending to be rich. And I started picking up on little tells. And as it grew, I started to see how they had, and I would, you know, like you go into a restaurant or a club and you get the manager going up saying, how's your evening? You having a good night?
Yeah.
I started doing that. And the manager was coming up to me going, what are you doing? I was like, I was just checking them having a good night. So he stopped doing that. And I began,
became yours.
Yeah. And I was just picking on the wealthy people. And I wanted to get in the conversation. So guys, what do you do? So ladies, why are you here? And I wanted to have that conversation because I knew there was a secret in there that I didn't know. And it grew from being a doorman, closing down nightclubs, taking over penthouses and throwing parties, taking over yachts and throwing parties, and then working for Monaco Formula One for this little car company called Ferrari. And most recently, I finished an 8-year contract with the piano man himself, Sir Elton John. So it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the things I've done along the way have just got wilder and crazier. And as you said, Forbes ended up calling me the real life Wizard of Oz. And I think it was Entrepreneur or Inc. Called me the Make-A-Wish Foundation for people with really big checkbooks.
There you go.
I kind of like that one.
That's not a bad tagline. Let me ask you,
did all right.
With the everyone on here kind of either already on that entrepreneur journey or starting out, you mentioned all of these different things that you had done that didn't work, right? And I feel like that's one of the biggest obstacles that people have is this idea that every time you do something, it's got to work. And if it's not working, then it's it's my fault or those people that succeeded, people like you never had that struggle. You just got it and you made it work. Like, how do you fight through that? Or what would you say to people that are kind of thinking that?
Write this down, folks. The first time you do anything, it's got to be shit. If you can write that down and realize that the first time you start a podcast, the first time you do a website, the first time you do an introduction, the first time you do a team meeting, the first time you get on stage, the first time you do anything, it'll be shit compared to what it's like in 6 months' time, compared to what it's like in a year's time, compared to what it's like in 2 years' time. Now, if you can give yourself that excuse, then your mindset changes to the let's get going and then get good. And that's what it works. And so everything I do, literally, I let myself off the stress factor. Who here has written a business plan for perfection? Michael put his hand up. Michael, did it turn out to be perfect?
Well, actually, this was a really long time ago because I'm like an old guy like you, and I had to do it by the dawn. I can't remember what it was, but it's just by hand. Okay. I had no idea what I was really doing, but I was following, copies, and I went to a SunTrust Bank, opened up a medical practice, which was a doctor, but that wasn't what I did, for my wife, and it worked out. But that was like, I couldn't believe it.
But was it perfect?
Well, it's perfect. I should say no. It wasn't perfect, but it was perfect enough to get me the loan to open up the drug treatment center.
So it was good enough to get you going.
And that's all it needed to be. It was just good enough.
See, I always say perfection is a blue unicorn with 3 testicles. It doesn't exist. So just kind of like, get it going and then get moving on. Plus the fact, what you don't realize is that the business plan doesn't give you the education on what not to do. It's when you release advertising and you go, oh crap, I did that bad. Great, I've just got educated on not how to do it. So you learn these things. So your business, as far as I'm concerned, your business plan, you should be able to put on the back of a postcard. Okay. And then you should start doing it and learning along the way. See, I've had people that have started writing business plans on stuff. And then I've done it, failed, changed it, tweaked it, edited it. Oh, got a bit of momentum there. Oh, it's failed again. 6 months down the line, I'm starting to make money. And that's still writing a freaking business plan.
Yeah.
So everything you do the first time will be shit. When you're graced with that knowledge, you could do anything.
That's powerful. No, appreciate that. So you started out doing, with the bouncing and then throwing parties. How do you transition from that to some of the stuff that you've done? Because a lot of people would have just kind of stayed and been like, hey, I'm happy where I'm at. People come to me. We're throwing these cool events. How'd you make that transition to, you know what? Let's do something else. Or were you asked, or, what happened?
It wasn't a transition. It was a journey. And I wasn't there yet. You see, I was throwing parties for 100 very wealthy people living in Hong Kong, but they weren't all talking to me. Now, my goal was to have a conversation. I wanted to ask them, what are the 3 things that make you successful and me not? So I hadn't got to that stage yet. And so I'd be throwing a party in the famous story, or one of the famous stories, in Hong Kong. I was throwing a party and this guy turned around and said, hey, I'm in Monaco for the Grand Prix in a couple of months. Do you know anyone in Monaco? Can you get me some access? Because I was throwing in Asia, I was like the Google of the nightlife for like Kowloon, Wan Chai, Hong Kong, or these are Macau. And they're like, can you help me out? Something in Monaco. I don't know if you know anyone. I'm like, Monaco, of course I know people. Of course I do. Then I went back and asked my roommate, where's Monaco? Because I thought we had a place just outside of Hong Kong called Macau. Macau's like the Asian Vegas, tiny little island. And for any of you that don't know, Hong Kong is like got hundreds of islands around it. I thought Monaco was one of those islands. I had no clue, but I didn't care. Once I knew the basics, so of course I can. And then go and work it out. And I made phone calls, who do I know? And it worked. I got to know people in Monaco. I said, I got someone coming over. Now, the good thing about successful people, and I'm going to pick on you lot for this. The good thing about aggravated people wanting to do better for themselves is they tend to hang around with aggravated people wanting to do better for themselves. Successful people hang around successful people. There's a reason that poor people stay poor is because they hang around with poor people. Now, before you bitch at me and send me a DM, or you can send me an email to idon'tgivashit@stevesims.com. I've been poor. We know what it's like, and it stinks, doesn't it? So why hang around poor people? Why go to a pub and walk up to a guy that's never left that bar stool and ask for financial advice? But how many people actually do that? How many times you say, oh, I've got this, what should I do? And you get the guy at the bar going, hey, I watched a documentary on that. I know the answer to that.
I saw something on Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, they're the dangerous people. So if you want to be better, hang around with better. You did it. You hung around with Joe Polish. You were aggravated enough to get into a room where people were doing things that you wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. So I wasn't there yet, but the requests got bigger and bigger, and they got more isolated. I went from throwing a party for 250 people on a yacht to helping a couple get married in the Vatican by the Pope. closing down a museum in Florence for the David dinner party, and then getting Andrea Bocelli coming in, throwing a private reception with Sir Elton John, meet and greets backstage. I was now getting locked and loaded with these billionaires, giving them an experience, and then going, "Hey, Jackie, what you working on?" And if you were me, what should I be working on? You know, I got to have those conversations, and that was it. And so the conversations got bigger and bigger. I actually didn't pay too much attention to what I was doing. Here's the daft thing. I was actually not really paying attention to the growth of the concierge firm. In fact, my business, my God, corporately and structurally, it was abysmal. It should have gone bankrupt 50 million times, you know, because I run it like a personal piggy bank for me to just play around the planet. And I learned everything about, I learned everything about accounting by doing it wrong. I learned everything about marketing by doing it wrong. You know, that's where all the education is. And that's how it became. And it just grew and grew and grew. And then you say about the book, and again, understand this, please write this down. When you're in a great room, great things happen. I was in a great room in New York, drinking me old fashions, telling me stories. A girl literally ran away from me. And I was concerned, thinking, crap, what did I say? Was I inappropriate? Luckily, my wife was there. And I looked at her and I was like,
came out of my mouth.
What did I say? Because I know I can sometimes, you know, just speak before thinking because I'm a man. And she came running back with this older woman, and I thought I was in trouble. I thought it was her mum. And she came over and she was like, "Tell that story again." And I did. And she happened to be one of the main directors of Simon and Schuster. And a week later, I got a book offer. And that was it. I wrote a book, never thought about it, got paid very well, which is important. When you write a book, you do two things. You get paid to write the book, or you get paid by selling the book. Because I was paid to write the book, I was able to write the book I wanted to write. Had I been writing it to sell a book, maybe I would have diluted it. Maybe I would have used some big words that maybe sound smart. But I didn't give a shit. I'd already been paid. You know, the bike should have already been purchased. So I literally just
along those lines, with you being you and allowing yourself to be you. That's one of the things you talk about in the book is being your authentic self. How important is that now, like in this digital age that we're in, and as crazy as social media and everything else? You know, when you talk about personal branding and being yourself, that's one of the things I think that first attracted me to what, you know, the message that you had with Joe. And I just, you know, there was something different there. Why is that so important? And, you know, why should people pay attention to being authentic instead of trying to, you know, too many people worried about, I'm an introvert, so I can't succeed with my business, versus just being authentically who they are.
All right. So you've upset me, I think, maybe 12 times. I hate the word authentic. Okay. It's become the buzzword like 10x and scalability and all that. I hate the word authentic.
Okay.
It disgusts me when you walk up to someone and go, "Look, he's so authentic." You're just confirming that the rest of the people around you are not. What I go for is transparency.
Okay.
Let's place it out now. There's an old saying, know your audience. When you're selling something, know your customer, know your audience. Okay. In today's world, what is our audience like? Break it down. They're being fed a lot of news. Half of them think the news they're being fed is fake. We're in the middle of a COVID situation and we do not know when it's coming out, because it comes out, it goes back on again. So we're aggravated, we're concerned, we're feeling lied to. And in the middle of all of this, we're having conversations. We've grown the Me Too campaign, Black Lives Matter, the politics. We're having tough conversations today that a lot of people don't want to have, but should.
Yeah.
We're in a moment of high aggravation and low tolerance. Okay.
True.
We don't want to suffer bullshit anymore. And all we're getting on a daily basis is noise. Okay. A lot of noise, a lot of distraction, a lot of confusion. And we're like this. So when we see someone leaning up against a fancy car, we go, "Good for you, now piss off." We don't have the tolerance. You know, last year would have been like, "Oh, that's a nice car. You know, maybe one day I'll get." We don't have that today. Okay. So we're in a world of mass distraction. There is one thing today that absolutely everybody in the planet needs, probably as much as air, and that's clarity.
Yeah.
You want clarity today. How do you get clarity? By being transparently you. Okay. Is anyone here confused by me yet? You know, if you saw me in a bar, if you saw me in a coffee shop, if you saw me walking down the street, would you expect to see any other person than me? No. Why? Because I've showed up as me. And here's the dumb thing. You start a business, you want to be successful, you want to be individual, you want to stand out, and you do it by putting up a website like somebody else in your industry, putting on a suit, maybe photoshopping those pictures to make you a little bit slimmer or younger. You become someone else. You become an avatar of you. You confuse your prospects. No confused prospect will ever give you that checkbook. But here's the beautiful thing. When you focus on the solution that you bring to the table, your looks, your voice, your inabilities and inadequacies, they go by the wayside because you're now a solution. If I knock on your door at 1 o'clock in the morning, for a start, you're thinking, how the bloody hell did he get my address? And I hope he goes away and doesn't, rape and pillage the family. So you're on high alert. If I try to sell you something at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're aggravated. If you've got kids, I've just woken up the kids. If you're married, I've woke up. You are not happy.
Right.
But if I knock on your door because I say, hey, I know it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm really sorry to bother you, but Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are having a coffee around the corner and I'm in the middle of the conversation and I know you wanted to have a conversation with him. Do you want to get involved?
Yeah.
How many of you are not going to be hugging me on the way to that conversation? Because now
I'd be racing you to the car.
Now I'm no longer an intrusion. Now I'm a solution and an asset. So today we've got too much noise going on. Don't care how fat, thin, green, blue, any of that. It doesn't matter. But if you focus on conveying the message of you and the solution you provide and who it's to, you become clear. I'm transparent because there is zero effort used in being me.
It makes it easier and putting out a message continuously and trying
to
do just talking.
Yeah, look, we're having a conversation. I've got a bad throat. I like the conversation. I'm liking most of the smiles here. Everything's really cool. I think Hartley actually died, I think maybe about 45 minutes ago. But apart from him, I think everyone's enjoying it. But, this is fun for me, and I'm enjoying it. But what I want is I want someone here to leave this and go, I'm going to do something different. Because here's the big fact, my folks. If a bricklayer from London can work with Sir Elton John, the Vatican, Elon Musk, to Richard Branson, any other name drop you want to play with, you're already out of excuses. And if you can do it by literally turning up on a motorcycle in a black t-shirt with his earrings, with his funny voice, not being able to spell like shit, again, you're out of excuses.
There's always a way to get there, and you're a phenomenal example of that. So connecting with people, because you've kind of made this transition from in front of the door to doing what you've done with the business, and then, like you said, I kind of found you right before the book, but then since the book, you've made a transition into more doing some coaching, some speaking, and being dipping your toes into the digital world, as it were. How do you maintain connections in the digital world versus the way you normally do it? Or are you doing both? I know in your book, you talk about some of the same cool ideas that Joe always has. You've got, you're in a hotel, you send off a message with, SteveSims.com. And I've told them I'm a member of the distillery and talked about the event and everything. But, you mentioned you go to a hotel, you write off on the hotel stationery, you're in the plane and you got the Sky Mall. Like, how do you do that in a digital world?
Well, you just said it. You know, again, know your audience. What did we miss out on the second that COVID came in? Connection, you know? And it was bullshit because everyone was turning around going, oh, COVID's here and I can't get out and my relationships and I can't connect with people. We stopped connecting with people the second Friendster was invented, when MySpace came along, when Facebook came along. You know, you give birth to a child now, you don't phone up your mates and get together for cigars and beers. You plug a picture up on Facebook and pray you get a lot of likes.
You praise the kid that's nowhere near Facebook for the next 12 years, but you're gushing all over him.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And you won't phone the guy. You'll go, oh, that's a pretty baby. You know, it's terrible. So when we had COVID come along, the first thing I did was try to amplify what we're missing. Again, you've got to do everything that everybody is doing and then do everything that they're not. And everyone was bitching about connection. So I literally went out and I found these mugs, and they were bright yellow mugs. You may be able to find a picture somewhere. And it said on it, just be aware you are a ray of effing sunshine. Okay? And I sent 200 of those mugs out. Two things happened. Everyone loved them. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone loved them. A lot of people were like, I can't have this in my office because it's too cheeky, or I can't have it, but I love it, Steve. Thank you very much.
But I love it, yeah.
And then, and you'll probably be able to back this up for me, a lot of people then started promoting it on their social feeds, going, look what Steve Sims sent me.
Yeah.
Now, you've just brought something up. I've not sent you a card. I've not sent you a letter, have I?
No.
But you've seen them, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did is I had an event the last 2 days or earlier this week in San Diego. I run events called speakeasies. Nobody knows anything that's going to go on at a speakeasy. Okay, that's why it's called a speakeasy. But what I did was every time I go to a hotel, I always ask the hotel for stationery. And then when I get that stationery, I find another piece of paper I can put in there. I put bar tabs in there. I put Denny's menus in there. But one of my favorite was like the in-flight magazines, especially if you're overseas. So if it's in Russian, Japanese, Polish, something like that. And I would take those magazines home. And as I'm leaving the plane, try to grab a few extra copies. And then what I do is I get home and I give those to my kids along with a list, and I tell them what needs to be written on this page. And they rip out a page, not with scissors, rip. So it's all bad. And They get a Sharpie and they write on it just something going, hey, flew off to Japan and was thinking of you. All the best, Steve. Fold it up, put it in the envelope, and we post it.
When now, so few people are even getting mail nowadays, just that alone from a handwritten envelope stands out in a way that's ridiculous.
But where did you see it?
Well, I just see it from you talking about it on podcasts and pictures and social media.
What pictures and social? Me? You've seen me post it?
No, I can't remember. I mean, it's been a little bit, but I just remember seeing it somewhere and then connected it together with some of your stories. So
again, I'm picking on you just to get the clarity here. I've never posted one of my letters on the internet. Right. But my clients go, look what I got from Sims, and it'll be a Japanese in-flight magazine with a little bit of writing on it. And then people DM me and they go, how do I get a letter from Japan? How do I get this? You know, basically, how do I get the attention?
Yeah. How can I be part of the club?
Yeah. And here's the thing. You've seen it, Andrew, from my clients posting it, going, I got this from Steve. I didn't write it. My kids wrote it. I just gave them the envelopes and stuff, you know?
Right.
But it shows up differently. Another classic one, and you could all do this, but you need to do it now, all right? Some of you will, most of you won't, okay? That's the way the ratios go, all right? I always send Christmas cards between the months of June and August. Always send Christmas cards between June and August, okay? 2 reasons. One, they're really, really cheap between June and August. So you could buy Christmas cards real cheap, okay? Secondly, who sends a Christmas card in summer? And in that Christmas card It says this: "You're so important in my world. I wanted to be the first one this year that sent you a Christmas card." I send that out, and then guess what happens? People start posting on social going, "Who the hell sends out a Christmas card in June? Steve Sims does."
Well,
Your front line, your connections are doing your marketing for you.
Yeah, I love you. Just, I mean, it's a breath of fresh air, really, to me. I love looking at it because you're talking about understanding your audience, being clear about what they want, knowing that, but then still kind of holding back, doing it in a way that's a little bit different. Like you said, do what everybody else is doing, but then do other stuff. So, like they want to get together for a speakeasy, but most of the people that want to come to some of these events, or they want to know everything about it. Right? I want to know where it is. I want to know when it is. I want to know everything that's going on. I want the itinerary, everything else. And you're like, no. Like I got, I signed up for Austin the other day, and I got the email from Christy, and it says, we'll tell you later, but you've got the dates, plan on being here the day before. And that's it. And I kind of looked at it, and at first I was like, no, but what's going, and then I stopped and I went, no, that's the way he does it. You know what I mean? So you're providing everything people want and then going, yeah, but we got to make it a little bit different.
People listen to too many other people. Start listening to your gut. And this is why I did it with you, Andrew, and you haven't had the follow-up yet. So I'll give you a little bit more of an angle, because all of you should be doing this with your tribe, okay? The downside with today is we want clarity, but we also give too much.
Yeah.
For me, there's nothing worse than getting to a restaurant and the menu is like 20 pages long. I'm like, my God, that's too much choice. All right. Yeah. So what I do is I say, look, do you want to come and hang with me for 2 days? It's here. It's these 2 days. Pay here. Very little information. All right. And then you get an email going, hey, we'll keep you posted with that. Then what's going to happen is you're going to get an email, and it's going to go, all right, Andrew, what's your problem? And Andrew's going to tell us what his problem is. Social feed, growth, scalability, exiting a business, writing a book, gaining credibility, getting on speaking stages, whatever it is, he's going to tell us. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my phone here with all of my little magic numbers, and I'm going to get people to enter that room that can answer his problem. You see, you go to events because this person's going to be there, and coffee's served at 10:30, and that's going on there, and then I get to see this person, then there's an after party. I don't give you any information, but I'll solve your problem. And if I don't feel I can solve your problem, I'll actually send his money back. In fact, we had people that were trying to come to San Diego. We never allow more than 40 people to attend. We had 68 people register. There were a bunch of people that we kicked out straight away because they were like, oh, I've got platforms. Your entrepreneurs should be buying my platform. I just want to talk about it. No, this isn't a sales pitch. You ain't coming. There's your money back.
Wrong tree.
Yeah, you're in the wrong sandpit. So we've had those people. So they get kicked out. Then there's been other people that have said, this is my problem. And I've gone, do you know, it's a little bit late in the day for you to be coming because we don't have the speakers there that are going to answer your problem. But we do for Austin. And they've gone, oh, move me to Austin. So my focus, and this comes from my doorman days. As a doorman, you have one goal: to avoid a fight inside the club. So how do you avoid a fight inside the club? You make sure you don't allow arseholes to come through the front door.
Yeah.
It ain't rocket science. You don't need Elon to work this out. So I would always focus on my front door. If this guy looks as though he's a bit tipsy, if these girls look a little bit loud, hey, ladies, what are you here for? It was like, hey, tonight's not your night, girls. Come back tomorrow. Send them off. Control who comes through the front door. How many of you here, and I can see you, so you can put your hands up, have had arsehole clients? Don't they zap your energy?
Yeah.
Don't they wear you out? So as soon as I get someone that's even marginally arsehole, sorry, mate, this isn't your sandpit. Bye. Because when you're having a conversation like me and you are, I'm going to come off this conversation, I'm pumped. The next person I speak to is benefiting from the adrenaline and rush that I've got interacting with you folks. When you're negative and when you've had a bad conversation and you spend all the time going, yeah, no, I know you're right, but yeah, no, of course I'll look. You get worn out. When you get off those conversations, you're just deflated. You don't want to make a phone call for another 10 days. So for me, I focus on the front door. I focus on the right mentality. And I do that by working on clarity. One message at a time. You want to go to Austin with me? You pay here.
Yeah.
You know, what's your problem? What's your dietary restrictions? One question to each conversation. And that's what you're now going to be seeing.
To filling up that room, that circle around you, you're talking about, and you know, not letting people in that door. When we're looking at our inner circle, because you got some people that are, and you kind of mentioned this in the book, like you can get rid of the accountant, but it's a little bit more work if it's someone that's a little bit closer to you that is the one dragging you down. What would you recommend there to insulate yourself, or how to build up or bring other people into the circle that will benefit you more?
Someone should show you the chug test.
Yeah, the chug test. There you go.
You're already doing it. If you were settlers, you wouldn't be on this Zoom call. You want more for yourself. Each one of you want more. You demand more. To demand more of yourself, you've got to demand more of your circle. And the good thing is, when you look around your circle, ask them, what do they bring to the party? That's the question. That's the question. Can I play a little game here, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
It's yours, man.
All right. So, David Hanlon, like your hat. So, unmute yourself. Are you there? Push the unmute, David. We've got a game to play. We're having trouble with David. All right. We may need to pick up George. George, can you?
I'm there. I'm here.
There. Okay. You called it up. All right. David, quick question for you.
Yeah.
I've got a barbecue this Saturday night, and you're in the area, and you said that you're around.
I'm coming.
Right, you're coming. What's the first question you ask me?
What's the password?
What's the password? Great question. All right, there's going to be a secret password. What's the second question?
Could I see your cell phone?
You want to see my cell phone? So you want to know who's coming?
Yeah. Well, I want to have your Rolodex.
All right, so you want my Rolodex. What's the third question?
How you doing?
All right. Okay. Mute yourself, because you're off the game now, and I'm going to go over to Juliana Feldman.
Was it something I said?
Oh, it will be in a minute, and you'll be ashamed, but don't worry about it. You learn. This is education. So, Juliana, are you there?
I am here.
I've invited you to my barbecue party on Saturday night. What's the first question?
What, can I bring a carrot cake?
I asked our friend David. Thank you very much, Juliana. I asked our friend David. The first three questions were selfish to him. Okay. Who's going to be there? What should I wear? What's the password? What's the address? What time? These are all selfish questions that answer for him. I asked Juliana a question. The first thing she wanted to know is, can I bring you something? It's my party. I've invited you in, and she wants to show up with an asset. How many relationships do we have today where we actually turn up at the party? And thank you very much, David. Trust me, it's very common. I've done this game enough times that I know how it gets played out. But how many of us turn up at a relationship trying to work out what we can actually get out of it before we ask the question, what can we bring? Any relationship you get into, what can I bring to the party? And that's the focus on it. As you're building up relationships, as you're looking at your group, as you're looking at those people around you, ask yourself, what do they bring to the party? How many of you have got friends that you go, well, I've known them since high school? I'm kind of suspecting they were probably a dick then as well. You know, how many of us have got people in our friend circle that are always the last one to buy the round at the bar because they're hoping they can get away with it?
I'll get you next time.
Yeah, I'll get you next, and then they forget or they don't show up or something like that. So you've got to be very critical to your inner circle, because imagine if your inner circle was great people. Imagine if your circle, and bear in mind, our inner circle, there are only ever like 4 or 5 people. Let's be blunt. Okay.
Yeah.
It's always a small group. Just imagine if these people, they weren't cheerleaders, because you don't need cheerleaders. Oh, you're going to be great. That's fantastic. Great. Gives a shit about that.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything. Looks great in a skirt. No one cares. We don't want crabs. We don't want people holding you down. You know, if you kind of get someone they're like, oh no, I don't know you can do. Oh, no, that sounds right. You shouldn't. You're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah, good luck.
You don't want
I
those.
don't know. Yeah.
Out. You need challenges. I told you next week I'm doing a 2-day intensive with a coach. I have 2 coaches. I have 4 people in my team. Anytime I'm about to make a big move, I contact them. I go, hey, I'm going to do this. And I get questions like, why do you think you can do it and someone else can't? That's not a negative question. That's challenging me to identify why I am the unique purpose in that.
Right.
How are you going to market, Steve? Have you thought that through? Is this the best use of your energy and talent? Because you see, here you go. We're all entrepreneurs. Do you know how you make an entrepreneur go bankrupt real fast? You ask them this question. Hey, I bet you couldn't do this for $10. You see, as entrepreneurs, we focus on the goal, don't we? We focus on the challenge. Peter Diamandis, a friend of mine, is the guy behind the X Prize that now is Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic. He offered up a $10 million cash prize to the first team that could send a rocket up into space, have it land, refuel, and go back up again. The average person that got involved in that competition spent over $70 million. And Burt Rutan, that won the prize, spent $150
to win 10.
So that's the point. So as an entrepreneur, you've got to think to yourself, are those people around you bringing something to the party? Trust me, you're going to be like, oh, I can't get rid of them. Don't settle. You know, don't do it. And also with them being down, they start breeding a cancer within your inner circle. Get rid of a bad person. You have more room for a good person. Yeah.
No, I love that. I talk with these guys a lot. And in my life, I've learned like the people that are around me, you know, they're going to bring me down or they're going to lift me up. And I'd much rather have people that are going to lift me up and be supportive and push. And then, you know, you go after others to kind of be in that secondary ring. Joe talks about your genius network, others that you can connect with and, you know, learn from. But truly, what can you bring to the table? How are you going to benefit them in one way or another? You know, because otherwise
I'd like to give you an example. There's a Silicon Valley guy that I actually work for now, and I have done for about 6 years, and I can't mention his name. It's not Elon Musk. I went to a party because I knew he was there, and he was working on a couple of platforms that I wanted to be involved in with Sims Media, my marketing company. So I have never moved by accident. So I Googled him. I knew he was going to be at this party. It was a gala that he supported. So I knew him and his wife was going to be there. I knew what he was working on. So I turned up at this event and I got it wrong. So I had been doing some research on what he was up to. And people love 3s and they love 5s. People don't like 7s. People don't like 13s. If I told you I've got 13 steps for you to be healthier, you'd be like, oh, 13. Hey, the 3 steps to being healthier, bang, I'm in, because it's only 3. People love 3s. They love 3s. You can get away with 5s. They love 3s. So I turned up to this guy and listened to this because this is important. I said, how you doing? You don't know me. My name's Steve Sims. How many people have walked up to you because they've seen you at a show, heard you on a podcast, seen you on video, and they go, hey, Andrew, how are you? And your mind's going, who's this? Do I know them? Are they a friend? Yeah. You are now in a state of shock. You imagine being a Silicon Valley bigwig, a superstar, a musical, an athlete. That stood there going, who is this person? Do I know them? And you put them in freeze mode. You can't connect someone when you've got them not focused on you. So the first thing you do is you say, you don't know me.
Don't know me.
And that it lets that go. They can go, Whew, okay, now what's the next question they're asking when you've said they don't know me? They go, what's that
Who are
person
you?
after?
Yeah.
You know? And this is where you bring something to the party. So I do this. Hey, how you doing? You don't know me. My name's Steve Sims. But I do know that you're working on this project, and I found 3 ways that it could possibly go south on you. Would it be a benefit if I just told you what those 3 things were? If I could benefit your business by giving you 3 reasons, aren't you willing to just take those couple of minutes?
Yeah.
So the guy looks at me and he says, all right then, buddy, what are they? I said, well, I know you've been working on this project, and I found that the fact is I could only find 2 from the limited information I could get. So make up the 3rd one. You know, distribution, scalability, they're the classics. You know,
Right.
social presence, credibility, dominance, you know, whatever. But there were 2.
Some other
that I-
buzzword.
Yeah, crap up with that. But I had 2 that were pretty solid. And I said, I found these as bottlenecks. I found this as a friction point. And I found this as a scalability. Did that help? And he looked at me and he laughed in my face. I'm a big fella, so I'm not quite keen on that.
Right.
He's laughing to the point of nearly tearing up. He's got a couple of minions around him, 3 or 4 guys. He looks at them, they start laughing.
Hey,
People
the
that
yes
don't
man.
Oh, they're the yes man. They would have laughed at anything he said.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were the yes men. They were laughing. And then he looks at me, still laughing, and I'm thinking, all right, I've been here for a couple of seconds. This went south, not the response I wanted. I'm going to head off. So I turn around to walk off. This guy now grabs my shoulder. So he's laughing at me, and now he's touching me. It ain't going to go well next.
Yeah. Wrong
Right?
move for the ex
So I
bouncer.
literally, I'm kind of like looking back like this, thinking, you know, make your next play a good one. Because I'm now starting to feel a little bit rubbed up. So I look at the guy and he turns around and he said, you've got to stay with us. So I turned around. He said, 6 months ago, we killed that program for the 2nd hurdle you found. And then he points at one of his guys that took this guy 4 years to discover. And you walked in and told me what it was. Had I met you 4 years ago, the project would still be in play, and that guy wouldn't be with us anymore. And he pointed. The other guy's not laughing anymore.
Yeah, he stops laughing real quick.
I never
choking on
saw
himself.
him again, so I don't know what happened to him. But he said to me, I never go back on a project once I've buried it. He said, but I got 2 other projects in the work. Can I retain you to look at my projects? I've worked with him for 6 years. The reason is I turned up as a solution. How many people in business get someone knock on the door and go, Jill, there's a problem back here? And then that's it.
Yeah.
They now
Without the
expect you to
solution.
run out and solve it. I want solutions. I want people to turn up and go, Steve, there's a problem back here. I thought of this, this, or this. You know, what's the best solution? Those are the ones that I've come up with. Even if all 3 are stupid, you want people thinking of a solution rather than distracting the problem to somebody else.
Right.
I showed up to that guy to show him I turned up as a solution. Been working with him for 6 years now on a very nice retainer, and he just throws me projects. What do you think of this, Sims? And I read it through, I send it back.
Bring solutions. And ultimately, that's what, as an entrepreneur, that's what you're trying to do, is just solve problems, you know, bring solutions to the
Isn't
table.
it that the whole point of an entrepreneur is that we provide a solution in exchange for a checkbook? Don't overcomplicate shit. That is what you do.
Yeah. That it doesn't get any easier.
No. Isn't it? Could it be any more transparent than that? Could it be any clearer than that?
No, solve a problem, get paid to solve the problem all day, every day. That's what it's about. Steve, I can't tell you how grateful I am have you on. I think I told you 30 minutes. We've run close to an hour.
Don't worry, I'll invoice you.
So send it my way. I'll send over you know, another bottle of something.
You could buy the first drink in Austin.
Oh, absolutely.
And there you go. We're good. That's my invoice.
This round, next round's on me, but I'll actually show up with my wallet that time. So, I know you've got hours and hours of stories that you could go over. I really appreciate all the nuggets. Everybody's super thrilled with everything. Do you have like one quick, just a cool experience that you did for somebody? I know you mentioned, Michelangelo, you mentioned getting married by the Pope. Is there any real cool thing that you could share that's just kind of like a 2-minute, hey, guess what I did?
I had a client contact me because he was madly in love with the rock band Journey. And he, like all entrepreneurs, his business had been up and down. He'd gone through relationships. He'd gone through sickness and health. But when he was in college, he used to make money by being the lead singer of a Journey tribute band. So he's now in his 50s. He's very successful, very wealthy. And he said, I'd like to meet the rock band Journey and say thank you. And I said to him, let me get this right. These guys have been the theme tune to your movie for your entire life. And you're going to conclude it by walking up to him backstage and going, thank you very much. I said, that's going to do it, And he was like, no. I said, you got to think bigger, man. So I went to the rock band and I said, look, this is the Journey. How can he be part of the Journey? So we actually brought him up on stage, live in concert in San Diego. And he sang 4 tunes, and he's actually deemed as the shortest termed lead singer of the rock band Journey.
That's fantastic. One last question, just because I know these guys. Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, currently racing around. We got the interesting looking rocket that Bezos launched. We had Branson up in the air a week before that. You have any thoughts or comments about what's going on with the space race and all of that?
Well, space, you don't understand that actually the next technology from space travel is going to be flights. You see, when a plane is going through the air, it's running on friction. If it can get out and go orbit, you're going to be able to get down to Australia in 25 minutes. So that's going to be the next step. It's going to do that. But watch this. Watch it very carefully. Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, and SpaceX.
Right.
2 of those people built their products. The other one slapped a sticker on it. All right. And that's the thing. Branson, I've worked with Branson many times. I'm actually with him again next year. He's actually coming on my podcast. We have a strange relationship, me and him. Because ask yourself, what has Richard Branson actually built? And what has he stuck his sticker on? One of them is a branding tycoon.
Yeah.
The other 2 develop stuff.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to be?
Yeah. Well, excellent, sir. And if everyone wants to come off a mute, I appreciate. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much for being on. It's been good. Get some rest for your voice. Rest a little bit the weekend, and then good luck on Monday with your coaching.
Cheers, pal. Look after yourself. And nice.